Wild came in, and everyone was like, yeah, he's amazing. But no one gets that era in the middle was excellent. It's just he was
Bark at the Moon?
Rhodes.
I love Bark at the Moon.
Absolutely. Like, that's such a classic tune. And people forget that's Jakey Lee. That's all him, man.
Yep. Totally. 110%, man.
Right on. So, we have one more song to get to tonight. Before we get to that tonight, I know it's not related to Maiden, but it's related to that type of music. Is one of my favorite drummers in the world is Dave Lombardo from Slayer.
Yeah.
And as we all know, he played with a band called Fantomas with Mike Patton from Faith No More.
Yes.
And Trevor Dunn. Trevor Dunn is Mike Patton's go-to bassist who played with him for Mr. Bungle and Tomahawk. And that band had Dave Lombardo, had Mike Patton, had Buzz from the Melvins, and Trevor Dunn. And man, that was one of the best bands ever. And they did covers. They did one called The Director's Cut. They did a cover of what's called The Godfather, and they did cover of what's called Rosemary's Baby, which was awesome as well, and I think they did cover the Carrie tune, but all their own spin on it. But man, badass as hell. And I saw them live in Detroit probably about 15 years ago, maybe plus that. But wow, man, what a show live! And it just the band, the people are so happy to see Buzz and Dave Lombardo and Mike Patton, and it just such a cool show. And you know what a badass show that was. And it was so funny to see Mike Patton put some guys in their place after they were kind of jawing them a little bit. And I'm not gonna mention on the air because it was a little bit crazy. But either way, it was great. But Mike will tell you later after that. So we're getting to our last song of the night.
I just want to mention Dave Lombardo also played with Suicidal Tendencies and the Misfits.
That's right. Talking to Mr. Metalhead Mike G here, who's our in-house metal. We'll call it
I'm a headbanger.
Our metal specialist here. We'll call it.
We should have a little section that's called Metal Moments with Mike G.
Yeah, that's right.
And by the way, I just want to say one thing about Wolfsbane too. When I found out who was going to be fronting Iron Maiden, I went down to Dr. Disc and bought a cassette of Wolfsbane just to find out what this guy listened to sounded like, and I was blown away. I'm like, all right, I'm good with this.
He's awesome, man. I actually, it's really random, but I came to this all a bit late, and it was about 97, I think, and my neighbour, we just moved house, and my neighbour came around and introduced himself. And he kind of got that I was a bit of a rocker and I was getting into Nirvana and stuff like that. And he, the next day, came around with a bunch of CDs, and on the top of the pile of these CDs was Wolfsbane, Live Fast, Die Young.
That's the one I think I had.
Whatever it's called. And that was on the top, and underneath it was Use Your Illusion 1, and then Use Your Illusion 2 by Guns N' Roses.
Right.
And then I can't actually remember what the others were, because I probably never got past those three CDs.
Those three.
It just opened my world. Yeah. And then it was literally purely by coincidence. So my mate, DJ, is a massive Iron Maiden fan, and he got me into Iron Maiden. And I remember a few years later, we were listening to Brave New World, and he lent me Best of the Beast, and that was when I heard Virus. And there's a couple of others on there, and I was like, that singer's really familiar. And that was that moment where I realised it was this. I had this random Wolfsbane album that this guy had bought 20 years before I was born, maybe. Or, no, it can't have been that, but you know.
Yeah.
I was just like, hang on, and it all clicked. It was amazing, man. But it's weird because I did it in reverse. So you obviously, heard that he was joining and then bought the thing. I had the thing and then the Wolfsbane thing, and then went back to the Maiden. It was a completely surreal experience, both ways, I would imagine. But he's quality. He's such a good vocalist.
Oh, he is.
Blaze Bayley does not get enough respect.
Can I tell one more story about Iron Maiden?
Go for it.
Of course.
All right. It was probably 96, 97.
Oh, please.
The original lead singer of Iron Maiden, well, not the original because they had him a bunch, but the first one on the records from Iron Maiden and Killers, Paul Di'Anno.
Paul Di'Anno, yeah.
And he played at Call the Office here, another small bar. In 96, 97. And
500-600 people.
And he played every tune was an Iron Maiden tune, except for one tune I didn't recognize, so it must have been a solo. But everything else was from those first two Maiden albums. And then they left the stage, and I'm like right up at the stage. It's so small, there's no security or anything.
Rock and roll.
And I'm just looking at this empty stage, and everyone's going Maiden, Maiden. And I was like, no guys, it's not Maiden. Like, Diano. And I got the crowd chanting, Diano. Next thing I know, there's his arm around me, this guy chanting Diano. I look over, it's Paul Diano's got his arm around me.
Nice.
I'm like, what? This is awesome. And they got back on stage and they played a couple more Maiden tunes.
Was he standing there with his arm around you, looking at the stage going,
yeah,
come on.
Totally was. That's exactly what he was doing. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what? Yeah, that was awesome. I'm sorry, that was a great Maiden experience for me.
Well, there you go. Another cool rock and roll experience. Just before we get to our last stream of the night, speaking of which, I remember when I went to see a band called I Mother Earth and Early Peace, and they were just coming out. So for Mike in the UK, I Mother Earth, they had an album called Dig. And after that, their title track was One Last Astronaut. And I can't remember the name of the song of the album, but the name of the album, but it was a great album. Anyways, I saw I Mother Earth and a band called Early Peace. Their first album was called Navid, and before they became like really kind of popular and kind of too pop sort of thing, it was a song live. And there's a band that opened up for them, a French band called Mange Los Mange, which means berry bear. And the video for it's so funny because if you look it up, when the guitarist doing the solo for the song, he's pointing at his hand as he's soloing. It's effing hilarious, you know. It's so funny. And when we saw that band, they opened up for these two bands, and the bassist put his bass on me, and I was with my brother's bassist at the time, who played for the ska band. It was just, this guy is just amazingly beyond Les Claypool. He kind of taught himself to give lessons, sort of thing, at like 17 years old. A great guy. Anyways, they put the bass around my neck, and he was looking for an exit to run out of the venue with this bass on my neck, eh?
Oh yeah.
it was so funny, but it was such a cool band. And during the song they played, it's called Bonjour la Police, which means hello the police. And he was doing the same thing he did in the video. He was pointing to his hand as he was doing the solo. Man, I was dying and laughing. It was hilarious.
That's awesome. I'm glad you translated Bonjour la Police, because I don't know if I would have got that.
Right.
Well, I gotta say, I hope I get a selfie with Blaze now.
Yeah, right, eh?
96, phones didn't have cameras, but now I got a camera. So.
Right on. So we're gonna do the last one of the night, and the last one of the night is a band called Honey Badger, and the song's called Sleazy. Dig this.
What
Right on. Honey Badger with Sleazy. I'm a little delayed on tweeting that song, but well, man, that was awesome rock and roll. Like, she had a fantastic voice, and what a great band. Like, wow, that was an amazing tune.
Yeah, do you know there's loads of amazing things about Honey Badger actually, but this is a band I've discovered. So these guys are in their early teens.
Really?
Yeah, these guys are young. Well, compared to us anyway. They are, not there's anything wrong with them, but they are in their early teens. And I'm putting on a show in November, which is an all-day show. I've called it Off the Record Independent Music Festival in Brighton. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to celebrate. Brighton's one of those places where you could go out on any night and there's 30 bands on.
Right.
But there's a real struggle, which is the case. Martin alluded to it earlier. There's a real struggle actually with getting people to shows and with attendance and with just kind of creating a scene, and it becomes a kind of rent-a-crowd situation where you bring the mates along and then you think, well, you might as well just put your own thing on and bring your mates along. So to help build the community, I've decided to put this festival on in November, and I had all the bands lined up and I handpicked them and I picked my favourite Brighton bands, and most of them I've seen and everything like that. And then the guy that owns Brighton Unsigned, which is like a local magazine that publishes stuff about Brighton based, or not just Brighton based, but generally independent bands, happens to be the guy that runs the studio that we rehearse in.
Nice.
And he said to me, "Oh, have you got a slot, an opening slot maybe in the day, because they're not allowed in there after 9 because they're not 18 yet. Have you got a slot in the day where you could squeeze these guys in? I think you'll really like them." And before I'd even heard them, because I trust this guy Phil, I was like, yeah, if you recommend this band, I'll put them on. Anyway, they then released this, and I was just like, this is in the last week or two. I was like, this is absolutely fantastic. He gave me the CD, and completely randomly, my neighbour, bearing in mind I live 15 miles north of Brighton now, my neighbour, who's sort of, I say my neighbour, he's like the street next to me, but he's a cool guy. He's into really cool music, similar stuff to we're into, actually did the artwork for their EP, and he contacted me and said, "Oh, can you put these guys on the show?" And I said, "Well, actually, my mate Phil is already getting the CD, and I'm already submitting it to the show." So between the two of them, they were like, get these guys on. And obviously it was just like, the minute I heard it, I was like, it's going on anyway. But it's fantastic to see all these kind of connections and everything. But they're playing this thing off the record. They're doing loads of other stuff. They are, in the same way that we've talked about bands like Wild Horse, and Wild Horse We've always referred to as young, but they're a little bit older than these guys. They are the future. They are, if we don't start putting on younger bands and listening to, not to say that we shouldn't go out and see 1-in-5 for in their 30s, but if we don't start putting on and listening to and respecting some of these younger bands that have fantastic talent and giving them a platform to really hone their talents, we're going to have a gap and a problem in the future. And so bands like this are the future, and the reason I was so keen to get them on the show, not only because it's a fantastic song and it's worthy of the show anyway, but just because I think that's phenomenal that they did that at an age where I was just discovering an E chord,
right,
and deciding that I wanted to play the guitar because I was no good at sport and I wanted to pull girls. And they've written an EP.
Yeah, right.
They're so far ahead of where I was at that age. I think it's amazing. So that's it's not to say that I wouldn't respect them. I think they were awesome anyway, but I think